Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. Abbreviated intro today. Apologies. We don't have the full technical staff that we normally do, but we're back on a Monday morning. A lot to talk about today. YouTube page, FloTrack Podcast YouTube page. Go out and subscribe if you can. We also have a Twitter account now, Gordon, a dedicated Twitter account that neither you nor I is in charge of, but it is labeled FloTrack Podcast, so people will associate it with you and I. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't even know what the password is. So I don't know. I gotta figure that out. I don't. Who's controlling this account? Is it just some man?
It's a bot.
Flow Sports. Someone just taking over our channel and our content. What's going on?
No, it's a bot. Every 9 days it says Ches should have won the Bowerman.
Yes. Okay.
And then every 14 days it posts some rankings and then just goes on and on and on like that in perpetuity. We should talk about the March Madness bracket though. Who's winning right now? Can you pull that up before we dive into the show? Because there's a lucrative prize is on the line. And while you look that up, I want to give you some props for a good tweet. You know, part of my job here is to flag Gordon's good tweets. People who watch the tournament know Oral Roberts upset Florida last night, which brought on a reaction from Grant Holloway, Florida alum. And you quote tweeted Grant's, I guess, disappointment in Florida with a, hey, it was payback for this. And you found a result where he beat an Oral Roberts hurdler in college. And it was like Holloway was 1. The Oral Roberts kid was 5th. How long did that take you to find a Florida versus Oral Roberts matchup?
It didn't take too long. I got lucky. I mean, I knew they had this one kid who was pretty good. And so he ran at NCAAs and he happened to be in the same heat as Grant, and boom. And I think his name's Israel Nelson. He found it and he tagged me in his Instagram story, being like, "Man, I'm just minding my own business," and all of a sudden, I'm in a Grant Holloway tweet. So
hey,
but yeah,
it's not a bad thing to say you lost to Grant Holloway in your career. There's gonna be a long list of people. Pretty much the whole hurdling world by the time he's done with his career is gonna say that. But yeah, you were able to find that. So props to you on the good tweet. Who's leading the pool right now?
So I mean, it's ID ESPN 12896. They didn't change his bracket name, but
that's okay.
It has his name, Eric Charter. I think he's an Iowa State guy. Iowa State fan. He's in the lead. He picks Gonzaga to win it. However, his max potential is only 1390. The person with the highest max potential,
is it me?
Is in third right now. Connor 5128.
Ooh.
He's in third. I'm in third as well. So, but I don't have as much as potential. You, on the other hand, you're not.
How am I doing?
Well.
I'm not doing well.
You're in 15th place.
Okay.
So
I'm moving up though. At that last K, you got to watch out for me. For the record, that's not actually Connor Mance. Really, not that we know that's Connor Mance in second place or with the highest potential there in third place. Okay, yeah, a lot of upsets, Gordon. There were a lot of upsets this week.
There were. 15 seed, baby, all the way to the Sweet 16. Oregon State doing well. Man, did you watch the Texas game?
I did not. I saw that it was a struggle to get to 50 points.
Yeah.
College basketball, man. They do not score a lot of points in college basketball.
It is weird because I was watching a lot of NBA League Pass at the same time of college basketball, and I'm seeing like hundreds of points and 50s of points, and it's just like very weird. Why is that? Is it they're not as good?
Well, that's part of it because professional
better
basketball players are better than college basketball players as a rule. Defense rules, right? A little more contact in the college game. It wasn't always like this. I remember when college would get up and down pretty well, but it seems like the game has slowed down a bit. A lot of turnovers. I mean, the late game offense in general in college is pretty bad. I've noticed, like when things get tight, it gets pretty sloppy trying to find a good shot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you watched the Texas game. Because what I heard, it was basically a rock fight. Neither team deserved to win that one.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, Texas got it, though, and then they were down late. Texas came back, had the lead, and then they called a foul. They missed a shot, and then the other guy got the rebound, and then when he just threw it back up, Hail Mary, like, oh, I got it, throw it back up. he got slapped on the arm, and that was all she wrote. And that's always one of those weird things. It's like whenever the game-winning moment is like a foul.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, Sixers had it last night against the Knicks, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about in like a loose ball foul with very little contact because there's only 2 refs on the floor? What's your stance on that?
Hey, my stance is on is Tobias Harris should have never missed those other 2 foul shots before, so it was karma, and the Kawhi shot shouldn't have gone in, so it was all karma.
Sixers looking. Were you getting a little flashback there for the Julius Randle shot? That's the first thing I thought of.
Yes,
Julius
I was.
Randle.
People listening to this podcast are so confused right now. They're like, "This is the FloTrack podcast? Why are we talking about Julius Randle bringing in a 2019 Kawhi reminiscent shot?" Anyway, we should talk about what's actually people care about, which is track and field.
Track and field. Okay, but another but here. This is track and field related. It's not news yet, but you did a bunch of interviews with the men's podium. I did a bunch of interviews with the women's podium coaches. Any highlights that you want to bring up? They've been up on the site for about a week or on the YouTube page. People can find them, but I really like the Mance quote from Dave Smith. What jumped out to you? What should people watch in those interviews?
Yeah, I mean, Dave Smith was very blunt about his thoughts on his ability to potentially win next fall. He returns everyone, and they add in FloTrack podcast #1 fan, Shea Foster, to the Cowboys.
Guaranteed W.
He was what, 45th? So they're going to have a really strong group returning. And they think they can win. I mean, he thinks he can win. He did a little bit of, trying to put a lot of pressure on Mike. He's like, you can't win, trying to talk it up, which was fun. But it made me think about it. Oklahoma State's returning everyone. And then when I talked to the Notre Dame coach, he said, yeah, we're returning everyone. And even if they don't get back Garrett, it doesn't really change because they still have their core 5 because they had 6 all together. And then you look at NAU and Luis Grijalva and Blaise Farrow, they're more than likely not to return than they are to return. There could be an opening. There could be a big opening to take down the Goliath. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And the coaches, it's weird. It's talking to them about it. Like, hey, okay, so next year, it's like, yeah, it's weird. We're just all back. It's like, we're just going to run the exact same race again. And how often does the same race happen twice? Never. But we always think it will, right? You always look at a pre-Nats results or a Nuttycombe result, and you'll be like, well, all those people are just racing again. So the order, if you are top 15 Nuttycombe or top 15 pre-Nats, you should be top 30 in NCAAs, and then they finish 250th. So I think the same thing might happen here. Like, oh, you are 30th in cross, so you're going to be 30th in 2021 fall, and then you finish 150th. So
I'm going to tell you this right now, Gordon. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's a mantra I'm going to repeat throughout the spring, into the summer, and all the way up until the day before the cross-country championships. You listening?
I'm listening.
I know you want to do this. Don't count out NAU. Do not count out NAU. They're returning number 4 and number 7 in the nation. And we're like, well, they're losing some guys. Yeah, they're losing some guys, but they're returning Nico Young for sure. They're returning Young and Nur. And that's a pretty good base to build off of if the seniors do not come back for the fall. So don't count out NAU. I know you're going to sleep on them.
Yeah, and they do have a sleeper that will probably be good next year that people aren't thinking about. He'll probably be their number 3 runner. So
wait, who's the sleeper? Are you going to tell me?
Corey Gorgas.
Okay.
He ran really well at the Oklahoma State meet. He was their number 3 runner at the Oklahoma State meet, and then he got hurt. And so, like, he was running better than Drew Bosley and Brody Hasty and all those guys. So if they throw him in, that kind of replenishes that another All-American type. And then Hobbs Kessler, the fresh, can he be good right away? We'll see.
Yeah.
He's a model, though. You never know.
I don't expect him to score 60 next year. I don't expect him to score 60, but I do think that they'll have, obviously, a very, very high ceiling. I also liked in your interview with Chris Bucknam, Arkansas coach, he talked about the indoor cross-country double and Amon Kemboy's journey in that 5K and then all the way to Stillwater. That was interesting to hear. I interviewed Lori Hennis, NC State coach, who echoed some of the things that you're saying about bringing people back. They're going to run it back again next year too. Runner up in Stillwater. They're going to come back with everybody, which probably makes them one of the teams to beat. She talked a lot about Caitlin Tui. Interesting Tui story here. Gordon was supposed to have the procedure done on her knee in the spring because of COVID. Everything got shut down. So had to push back the procedure to June, which is when she had it. So if there was fall cross, she wouldn't have been ready in time. Obviously, it cut into her buildup tremendously, but was able to get back and running. And we saw her in the DMR and then be the top freshman in cross country. That was an interesting thing. Also, Dominique Claremont was battling mono. She had, she won the ACC title in the fall, but she wasn't at 100%. A lot of reasons to be optimistic, obviously with the recruiting class that they brought in last year, on how NC State will do next year. And I think a thing to keep an eye on is, who's bringing back everybody? Because if you're bringing back everybody from a podium team, you're starting from a pretty good spot.
Yeah. And I was also interested in talking about to Sean Carlson, Notre Dame coach, about Yair Nuguse and his Olympic trials potential, and talking about what do you think of the Hawker versus Nuguse battle we're going to see. And he said he's excited for it. And what I think, I might have brought this up on the pod, but his immediate reaction wasn't about the NCAA final. It was about the Olympic trials final, which I thought was interesting. That shows kind of their mind is really, NCAAs is more just kind of a bullet point within the actual, what matters most is getting him ready for end of June. Mm-hmm. So
one other thing I want to mention, I interviewed Lisa Bresnow, Michigan State's coach. So if you want to know how the women went from 31st at 1K to 4th at the end of the race, check out that interview as well too. All right, let's stick on the NCAA topic. This was some news that happened last week. Regionals are going to be cut for track from 48 to 32. I don't think this was too shocking because I saw this floated out a couple months ago as a proposed idea or one of the things that they were considering, but now it is the way forward. What do you think about this decision?
Bunch of thoughts. One, I have a thought on the decision, and I have a thought on the reaction, and I have a thought on the reality. So,
whoa. Listen up, kids. I'm going back.
My thought on the decision is, okay, fine. Nothing really is changing when it comes to the sanctity of crowning a national champion in any of the 18 events. Mm-hmm. We still are getting 64 people qualifying for nationals as opposed to 96. 96 is a lot. I'm gonna be honest. So decision, I'm fine. The reaction, they're doing it because of COVID protocols. That's bull. They're doing it because they don't want to spend money. They wanted to find ways to save money. They lost a lot of money in 2020. They're going to say it's for health and safety. It's not for health and safety. The extra 12 people or 16 people that they're not letting come in every event, they're like, whoa, look at all these thousands of people aren't going to be there to spread COVID. Come on. It's going to be June. It's going to be end of May. It's outdoors. They're young. They're healthy. It's going to be fine. It's bullshit. The real reason was they want to save money. But they can't say that because, image. But everything's about saving money. Nothing is about the athlete. It's all about the money. And last is the reaction. Now, of course, people are going to go to Twitter. Coaches, athletes, former athletes are going to talk about this is the end. This is such a sad day for NCAA track. How could they do this to the student athletes? Oh my goodness. I have an anecdotal piece of evidence where my athlete who would have been 35th in the region one year went on to get the experience to eventually become 20th in the nation overall. And that's cool and all, but track and field is not a charity, and we can't keep crying about the lack of but what about this person who sucks compared to the best in the nation? We should care about the best. We shouldn't care about the people. But they're like, oh yeah, but it's all about development, Gordon. You'll never have the great people if they don't start somewhere. That's not true. Grant Holloway didn't need there to be 48 entries ever in his entire time in college for him to become great, a world champion.
But doesn't the first part of your statement sort of conflict with your second one?
What?
There? Well, you're saying the reason why they're not allowing them isn't because of COVID. It's just because of budget. So do you fault the coaches for saying, hey, why aren't you investing the same that you did before?
Well, no, but they're using it as like, this is the bad for.
Do you think it should always be 32? I guess is my question. Are you fine with it always being 32?
Yeah, I'm fine with it being even less.
Okay. You want a stricter standard.
Yeah.
Here's what the impact's going to be. And correct me if you've heard something different. But I think that what the impact's going to be is people are going to have to go get quicker marks, which means they're going to have to chase more, which means they're going to have to travel more, which is going to put a higher premium on these invite type meets, which are few and far between, which some teams think, it's easier to get to.
I disagree. People, the idea that you need to fly thousands of miles to run 10 seconds faster in a distance event is bull. You can do it if you want. If you just we just had this now. There was no BU meet and people still ran fast miles.
Okay.
There was no this meet, that meet. People found ways to figure it out. Like a guy from Drake was 4th in the mile. Did the small school of Drake suffer from the lack of opportunities? No, he went out there and Adam Fogg got it done and got 4th in the mile. So this idea that like this, like NAU probably would have, I mean, it's different because cost, but if they had their home track, they probably would all qualified their guys on their own on the home track. They wouldn't have needed to gone to the Arkansas invite or whatever. That's not true.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
So you don't think there's going to be a proliferation of people going to these big, especially on the distance side of things. Let's be honest. This is more of a distance issue than anything else.
Yeah.
But because now you can't, if you're a favorite, if you're Morgan McDonald, say in 2019, you can't go out to Azusa and then get in the B heat and cruise and run, what did he run? 13:58 or something and be cool with it. Right. You have to put a time down that is closer to your true abilities.
Oh, the humanity.
On principle? No, and on that part I agree with you. On principle, it's like, yeah, you should probably have to run a little harder. I'm not gonna critique you. Now, if you're saying you talked last week about Connor Mance, the amount of 10K he's gonna have to run, because if he does the Olympic trials, right, he's gonna have to qualify, he's gonna have to run the regional, he's gonna have to run nationals, he's gonna have to run Olympic trials. But Connor Mance running 10 seconds faster in some tune-up race, I don't think is going to be too detrimental to his performance in the Olympic trials. Like he'll roll with it and he'll be fine. So I see your point. I see your point there.
Like when the standard, we'll go into this later in the episode, but
let's go to it now.
When they announced the new Olympic standards, everyone flipped out. Like they're too hard. We need exceptions for the Americans. Like turn the Olympic trials into a gold label race because we need the exception. We can't handle the new rules. They're too hard. Bullshit. They're fine. More than any the standards this year in the Olympics.
Some explicit rating on this pod, man.
People are hitting them. Oh, wow, weird. They're hitting them. It's not too hard. You know why they're hitting them? Because people can do it. It's not. We were choosing not to run fast. We choose to run to the bare minimum, and it's fine. And then this situation with these 32 per region, like okay, if you were a 33 to 48 athlete, and but sometimes they make it the nationals. There's going to be, if you would have been that, you're going to now be a 24 to 32 athlete because you now know this is the new barrier. I looked into it. I was trying to figure out what event will be the hardest. The men's 5K, likely you're going to need to run like 13:48 or faster to qualify in the West, which I thought was kind of interesting. That's fine. People can do that. We just had an NCAA indoor 5K final where everyone was running 13:29 in their mile. This is crazy. So this idea that like it's awful is not real, but people need to learn just run faster. New rules. All right, show up. Next, this is like, stop asking for, but what about us? What about, shut up. Just go play track. It's not hard. You run in a circle. You jump in a straight line.
Man, I'm shaking my head for those of you who are listening and not watching. I don't think it's going to impact the best of the best. I agree with you there. They're going to figure out a way to qualify because they'll be able to run 10, 15 seconds faster. They'll know what the target is and they'll get it. I don't blame track coaches though for wanting the same amount of opportunities that they've had in the past because that's what they've grown accustomed to. I also thought that meet, initially I was skeptical. I became, you know me, I'm a regional super fan now. I went to one of them and I saw Michael Norman run 43.03 and I'm like, this is the best meet I've ever seen in my life. Like can I go every year to regionals? Rye Benjamin got a huge PR. So the rhythm of the meet is fine. It didn't drag too much for me. And yeah, it's kind of weird because you don't need to win to advance. You have to think of it literally as the first 2 rounds, or in the case of the 10,000 or the 5,000 as the first round of the NCAA championships. If you think of it in that context, then it's a suitable meet. I never thought 48 was way too many, but I also never thought, man, the number 46 seed has a real good shot at winning this thing. They're going to be the Oral Roberts of this steeplechase or this 200, and they're going to run the table. But it never bothered me. And then once it got down to, it was 12 and 12, and I like the NCAA meet, how it's configured right now. I think they do a great job with 24. And I like the men's, women's alternating change that they've done. So all those changes, I'm with it. And I kind of agree with you in terms of the extra athletes shouldn't be that big of a burden. So for that reason, I don't blame the coaches for being too upset. But I am interested to see, like, will we go back to, because you make a good point about not needing these big relay carnival meets or in distance carnival type meets to run fast. But I wonder, do old habits die? Like, which lesson are they going to learn? Are they going to look back to indoors and say, oh man, look at all these people who ran fast without having all these super fast races set up for them? Or are they going to go back to what they've done for years and years and years and amp that up and say, well, we need to go to Stanford twice to try to get this time? Because we were 30th, and then there was another meet, and now we're 35th. Are we gonna have to go back out later on to get this meet together? Maybe they'll organize stuff closer to home, though. Maybe there'll be a middle ground there.
We, for years, I don't know how long.
You just said years,
but like, if we were able to pick someone to go to nationals based on a top 16 mark, the fact that the top 64 mark is too hard is just stupid. Like, come on. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. In terms of like, is it going to exclude a person who can contend for a title or can score team points?
No.
I'm not sympathetic to that.
Make it even harder. I could go on another rant about other things, but that's another here.
I don't want it to see, the thing podcast. I don't want it to be too much harder, because I do want this to be about not just your regular season mark. I want it to be about competition and beating people on the day. So if you got down to, we're only going to take the top 8 marks and then that's not fun.
Yeah. But like, I think 64, 32 in the West, 32 in the East is a lot of people to choose from. Like, I think once you get to the 64 people in every event, it's hard for you to find like a reason, like, yeah, but what about that 65th person?
No, yeah. And hey, you can always say run faster, right? This is a meritocracy when it comes to getting quick times. You figure out, everybody's not the exact same in terms of opportunities, but clock goes off, you can run. It's pretty objective when it gets to that level. Let's talk about those standards, though. You posted on the site the updated Olympic standards, because I've been guessing for a couple months. I've been like, I don't know, does 17 people have it in the 5K, or is it more? But now you've answered the question. So you have everybody who has the standard plus the people who you think could get in on the world rankings.
Yeah, which is the interesting factor. So this only is through March 19th, so it doesn't include this past weekend's result if anyone ran fast. But when you really look at it on the sprinting side, everyone gets the standard because US is just good at sprinting. So there's not really much chaos on the sprinting side. I think on the distance side, it's kind of interesting to kind of look at who has it and who doesn't. Like Isaiah Harris doesn't have it yet, but he's in via world ranking.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I notice is what we thought was incredibly hard standards in the 5 and the 10K. Everyone has it on both the men's and women's side for the most part.
Yeah.
The one event, I guess maybe 2 events that were very limited on people with the standard is the steeple and the men's 1500. Men's 1500 right now, Matt Centrowitz, Craig Engels, and Josh Thompson have the standard. And then John Gregoric, Ben Blankenship, and Sam Prakel are in via world ranking, which their world ranking is going to go down as time moves on. So they have to maintain a high level of performance to stay in there. But when you look at that, that's the glaring event in my mind is the men's 1500 with only 3 guys with the standard.
Seems to be a pattern. If I told you over under 6.5 guys on the starting line for the final with the standard at the trials, you take the over or the under?
I'll take. Ooh, that's a good number. I'll take the under.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You could see, you talked about Hawker and Nagoose, some college kids getting the mark. But we're at what? 90 days?
Yeah.
To go? So we're 3 months to go. They're going to have to start hitting this pretty soon. And I bet Centro and Engels and Thompson are very lucky that they have it in their back. They're very fortunate they have it in their back pocket.
And they've had it. It's not like the standard window opened yesterday. The standard window's been open since May of 2019. Now, again, we get it. Not many people are running in 2020, but there were track meets in 2020. But for some reason, the 1500 is the event where people do not, on the men's side, do not want to run sub 335. It's just mind-boggling.
Do you think it's going to, if more people get it, a good, decent chunk, enough to assure you that it's not going to be an issue at the trials, do you think that's going to come with a bunch of one-off races with performances, or do you think we're going to see a race in the U.S. where 4 guys in the same race run 334, 333?
No, we're not going to see that. I think it's going to come on one-offs. I think it's going to be, hey, I had my moment, got it. All right, me, I got, boom, I think,
I kind of believe that too, especially because of the presence of the collegians in here. Maybe they'll go to a big meet and do it. I don't know, but you could see Hawker knocking it out, just using his Oregon teammates to pace him. You could see Nagoose hopping in a race and getting that standard. Yeah, I think I would take the over as well too. Contrast that to the women's 15. This is the women's 15. Here, who has it? Shelby Houlihan, Jenny Simpson, Eleanor Purrier, Nikki Hiltz, Shannon Osika, Rachel Snyder, Kate Grace, Helen Schlachterhoffen, Sinclair Johnson, Alexa Ephraimson, Corey McGee, Heather McLean, Elise Cranny. Okay, no, and then these people these people are in the queue, in the quota for world rankings. McLean, Cranny, Jones, and Mackey. But I don't think anybody's worried about the women's 15. I don't think anybody's worried about the women's 5. This is the women's 5. My goodness. Schweizer, Frazier, Infeld, Sisson, Pahalski, Purrier, Simpson, Hall, Houlihan, Frericks, Cranny, Conley, Roberry, Schneider, Lapari, Monson, Jorgensen, Huddle. And then you have Garcia in the rank. You have people there who's not even on the 5K. 5K is not even their best event. And they have it on the women's side. They have people to spare in there. But that men's 15. And you also mentioned the men's steeple. Bohr, Cabini, and Bear have it. The notable omission there is Jager, who I think would knock it out as soon as he gets the opportunity to race another steeple. Steeple's weird. They didn't do steeple last year. And there were track meets, but you could not really find a steeple. The Diamond League had it, there was some European meets that had it, but you did not see any of those pop-up meets, any one-off meets. Anything else that we should keep an eye on these rankings? Everything else looks pretty smooth. I mean, men's 10 has what,
Yeah.
six people with it, but that's a pretty decent number.
Paul Chelimo doesn't have the 10K standard, so maybe him and Lenny Corrier, so those American Distance Project crew don't have a lot of the 10K standards, so they're probably going to want. Remember, Paul Chelimo was looking at the 10K, 5K double, try to get the 10K standard, didn't get it, so then he went all in on the 5. So I think Paul Chelimo running the 10 is going to be an interesting factor if we ever get that, because he can kick. And then, I mean, some field events, a lot of people have. I mean, we're kind of, I don't know, like we don't have, like in the field events, we don't have anyone with the standard in the decathlon or the javelin. So it's just interesting kind of looking at it, seeing where it is and where it isn't. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a sprinter out there well, Ronnie Baker doesn't have the standard. We talked about this. He still doesn't have it. He's
from 2019. Yeah,
he's still in the world rankings quota, but he does not have the standard. But in the end, the standard doesn't really matter for sprinters, because if you're not running sub 10, you're not getting top 3.
Well, the problem with it though is when the wind kicks up at the trials and you get a bunch of non-wind legal marks. Those USATF meets, they're going to take place throughout April, May, into June. Those are going to be, I think, key for just hunting standards. But if you're hurt, it doesn't really help you. And that's where we've seen this is somebody's banged up, they get very little runway, and then they show up to the trials or USAs and try to make a late run. That's when it becomes difficult. That was Isaiah Harris in 2019, to the point where he had to lead in Des Moines because he didn't have the standard. So he had to get top 3 and the standard, try to hit the bank shot there.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out for him. That's not the situation you want to be in going into the trials. When I look at these, I like to imagine, okay, is there a person not on this list that I think could make the team? And for a lot of these, for most of them, the answer is no. Even when you have like the men's 5,000, for example, is someone other than, let's see this list: Kincaid, Lamong, Centro, Fisher, Chelimo, Bohr, McGorty, Klecker, Kipchirchir, True, Jenkins, Arasa. And then you have Mead, Bohr, and Simbasa in the world rankings. Is somebody other than that group going to get top 3? It's hard to think of a name.
I can't believe I'm saying this. Cooper Tier would be one.
Okay.
But like the odds of him getting top, and then hey.
Cole Hawker?
Cole Hawker. But I was gonna say Nico Young. But I mean, it's really just college kids when it comes to these distance events. That's basically what I'm getting to.
And the college kids will have a shot, right? The college kids will have a shot because the college kids are going to put themselves in a fast race.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that Tier does get this. These things don't get locked until right before the trials. Yeah. So good work by you.
I know someone. Connor Manson, the 10K. That's probably one. Right. That's gonna be an interesting. Actually, when we think about it, because I'm sure he's like thinking, like, I mean, he's a aerobic machine. I wouldn't put it past Connor to be in the mix in a 10K final. You never know. So maybe him and trying to chase a fast 10K mark will be something he tries to do, which will be hard to do in an NCAA season because then you have to come back and regionals and all that stuff. So maybe that's one. I think it's just college kids really are the ones that you kind of look at as like, oh, they don't have it.
But I'm saying if you had some sort of fancy algorithm and you put in all the names, how many times would someone in the top 3 in the 10,000 come up with not Lamong, Fisher, Kincaid, True, Jenkins, or Kipchirchir? I think some combination of that group would account for a huge percentage of the probable outcomes in the 10,000, for example.
Yeah. No, yeah. You're 100% right.
But the college kids will have a shot here. But men's 15, always exciting. Always got to keep your eye on the men's 15. A couple other stories I want to touch on. Speaking of BYU alums, or BYU in general, Clayton Young won the US 15K on the women's side. Emily Sisson rolled. She's looking pretty sharp, Gordon. I think Emily Sisson in that 10,000 is now moving into role of top 3 for sure there, because we saw her do the fast 5 and now the fast 15. So you have to like what you see if you're a Sisson fan.
What was the time that she ran in the 15?
The 15K?
Yeah.
It was, let me pull it up right here, courtesy of this David Monty article here. She won the Battle of the Genders. That's the key part here. She won the Battle of the Genders. Where's the time here? 40. Jeez, I can't see.
Come on, give it for me.
Here we go. Well, hold on. Second place was 49.14. 48.09. 48.09. She won by a minute and 5 seconds.
48.09. 48.09.
Yes.
Okay, and then what did she run in the 5K? 14:55.
Yeah.
14:55. So 5K plus 15K averages to a 10K, right? So what her 10K that she's going to run at the Olympic trials is, drum roll, 31:32.
That's how it works. If it's windy and they go over a bridge in Hayward.
Exactly.
I haven't seen the new stadium. That might be the case. No spectators at the Olympics, Gordon. But, media, maybe, if you get over there, maybe. I feel bad for the families, the parents. I don't know if they've definitively said that they're not going to be able to go to, but I'm guessing when they say nobody from overseas, that's what it means. But I feel mostly bad for those athletes who aren't going to be able to have their families there to watch. That's a bummer.
But you know what they say? It's better to watch a football game on a couch than it is in the stadium because it's cold and this, that, and the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
they do say that. I think it might be a little bit different if your son or daughter's in the Olympics. I don't know.
That's true.
You probably want to be there. It is. I don't know. It is tough to get around, obviously, and it's a huge ordeal. But I just wonder what it's going to look like. We're so used to. I turn on these tournament games, Gordon, and it's like I don't even notice a difference anymore. I've been so
no fans.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm watching. Have you been watching this season of Last Chance U?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they followed a basketball team this year, right? And obviously, we know how last year's basketball season ended. But initially, when they get the news, it's not that the tournament's canceled; it's that there's no fans, and the guys are all dejected, as you'd expect them to be. And eventually, obviously the whole thing gets called off, so they would get even more disappointed later. But they're like, what? No fans? That's crazy. Whereas now, if you said, hey, you could play, but no fans, oh, okay.
Yeah,
the NBA did that. The NFL did that. Literally every sport I've watched. But back then, it just seemed like such a strange, ridiculous concept that there would be no fans, that they're just like completely devastated. But I think now you'd say, okay, I'll take that. And I think that's probably the outlook for a lot of the athletes. Yeah, my parents can't be there, or my loved ones can't be there, but hey, they couldn't be there for a lot of stuff over the past year. I'm just glad that the Olympics are happening. Knock on wood.
That was me knocking on the microphone wood.
Knock on the mic. Knock on the mic. Hey, is there a big track meet this weekend, Gordon? You want to talk about?
Oh yeah, Texas Relays this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go as a fan.
Fans are allowed there.
Fans are allowed. I'm gonna go to watch my significant other run the 5K. So that's gonna be fun. JoJo is in the 5K. So we should she's trying to break 17 minutes.
Okay.
I think she's gonna do it. She ran 17:02 time trial like 3 weeks ago. So she's right there. I don't know, man. I was looking at past Texas Relays winners, like sometimes a 16:40, 16:30 wins it.
You're just putting a lot of pressure,
know.
Man. You're putting a lot of pressure. Who have you looked at the entry list?
Oh yeah, I've dissected the T-First page. Just be like, oh, that's an old PR. That's an there's an Oklahoma State runner, Gabby Hederman, who was the Big 12 champ indoors, but she didn't run well at cross. So, potato. What are you going to get from her? I don't know. But
wait, so that she's in her race. So this is interesting. Okay, so this is
it's all college kids. It's all college girls. And
so
JoJo.
this is
so
JoJo,
30-year-old JoJo running against the people she probably covered when they were in high school when she was covering for Mile Split. Yeah.
1,000 or when she was with FloTrack. Like, this is got to be bizarre for her. Like, when she's standing on the starting line, it's going to be so strange because I don't know, 2 years ago, like when I ran with JoJo, I mean, she probably wasn't in great shape then, but the fact that she was running with me, I don't think she saw 17:02 in her future is what I'm saying. I don't think if I asked her that, I said, hey, in a couple of years, you're going to be on the start line at the Texas Relays against these college kids. She probably would have said, I was crazy. So this is so bizarre that this happened. It's not like she had this huge post-collegiate career, and so she's used to racing all these top flight people. This is just pandemic, pretty much, right?
Well, the thing that's most bizarre.
Or she's in the marathon.
Well, that's the thing though about post-collegiate running, especially like non-pro post-collegiate. Okay, pros, it's different. You're like trying to make Olympics and all that stuff. But once you are quote retired from like competitive running and you start running again, you don't really have the opportunity to enter really track meets or like notable track meets. Yeah, maybe you can enter like the random pop-up track meet that just is very community based. Yeah. But like to be in like something that you would have done in college, you never get that opportunity because it's more just like go to the roads, go enter major marathons. And she fell in love with running some fast 5K mile type times over the summer, got fit, runs a 17:02, and then was fast enough to be in the Texas Relays. It's kind of cool. We live here. It's literally the track is down the road from our apartment. So it's going to be fun. I think she's going to break 17. I think she's going to run faster than 17. It's going to be good.
What's her strategy?
Strategy is,
did you talk about this?
I don't know. I mean,
is it public? Is it not?
We can't reveal the strategy. Okay. I'm not her coach. I'm just her hype man. That's all I have. I just hype her up. I just tell her like it's made like I'm telling her the weather, perfect conditions. I'm the hype man. That's my job. And equipment manager. I carry all of her stuff.
Okay.
Like a water bottle or a yoga mat. All that.
Who's the number one seed in the race?
There's a D2 woman who got second at D2 indoor 5K from West Texas A&M. She's like a 16-20 girl. Mm-hmm. So she's probably going to win. Mm-hmm. But yeah, JoJo, you never know. There's something about that veteran presence. She knows the ins and outs of track and field from covering it for 10 years. So
you're not much older than she is. Can you imagine what you ran the 8 in college or the 4?
4.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh,
can you
racing like a Fred Curley or something?
Yeah. No, not Fred Curley, but just a
like college 400 meter runners. Yeah.
Just someone who runs like a solid 46, like right now. It's like
that would not be good.
Get on the line.
It'll be even worse for me because I am not even close. At least JoJo's like she's running faster than she did in college, so that's what's exciting about it. It's not like she's a shell of her old self. She's like her better than her old self. So
that's what's cool is usually people it's like they start up here, then it's this slow decline. She has been just getting faster over the last couple of years. That's why I'm sure it's surprising to her probably that she's running this fast. And then it's also the shock of like lining up against, oh, that's an Oklahoma State jersey. Oh, that's a Texas jersey. It's just got to feel weird because I don't know about you, but the first couple of meets I covered for FloTrack back in the day before I even worked here, I would get nervous before the meet just because of like my association with running.
Yeah.
Right. They'd say like first call for the men's race. I'm like, oh, like I had, because
you have to go to the bathroom all of a sudden.
Like, yeah. And Fenton's like, hey, Kevin, stop. I need you to hold the camera. Can you stop going to porta potty? And because my associations of going to meets was most closely related to me competing in them. Well, that's long since passed because I've been to a million meets now where I'm walking around holding a camera or whatever. So now that's gone away. And I wonder her association, she's going to show up at this track. She's going to have her shoes to run. But is part of her thinking, oh, wait, where's my notepad? Where's my mic? Oh, wait, I'm in the race? That's crazy.
It's going to be exciting. Hopefully it goes well and we'll have a good weekend to celebrate after. So that's the plan.
Do we have
on
rights?
to the next race? On to the next race after.
Do we have rights to the post-race interview?
I might get a post-race interview. We'll see.
Okay, good.
I had to pay for tickets, man.
Yeah.
There's no media allowed at Texas Relays this year, so I'm going as a patron.
I got bad news for you too. If she makes it all the way to Tokyo, got bad news for you. Sorry.
I didn't. I can't even go as a fan either. Yeah.
Nope.
Maybe I could be her fake coach.
That's where you want to change what you said about you not being her coach. You want to talk about how you were
the record. Yeah. We'll delete this podcast if she makes the Olympics.
You're always the coach. All right. We'll leave it there. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. You can subscribe to the show. Please subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube page. You can follow FloTrack Podcast on Twitter. We'll be back in a couple days. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and thanks, everybody, for downloading. We'll talk to you soon.